Fine. Kerisos. Kerisos. We have Vav Dalet. Those liable to katos or unconditional ashams for Hovim Yom Kippur past are liable to bring them after Yom Kippur. Those liable to conditional ashamos are exempt. One for whom a doubtful situation of sin occurred on Yom Kippur, even at dusk, is exempt for the entire day atones. A woman who was obligated to bring a bird, katos of doubt, or for whom Yom Kippur passed, is obligated to bring it after Yom Kippur, since it renders her fit to eat of the offerings. A bird katos that is brought because of a doubt, if after his neck was nipped, it became known to her, it must be buried. If one synthesized two, sell them for an asham, and he purchases them with them 2 grams for an asham. If one of them become worth 2 selim, he may be offered for an asham. And the second must graze until it develops a blemish, and then is sold, and the proceeds are deposited for nedava. If he purchased with them 2 rams for ordinary wheat, one became worth 2 selim, and one became worth 10 suz. The one worth 2 selim should be offered for his asham, and the other for the me'ilah. One for his asham and one for ordinary meat. If the one for the asham became worth 2 selim, it should be offered for his asham. And the second for his milah, and he must bring it with a selah and its fifth. Okay.
All right. So, Mishna Zayin Hamafrish Chataso. He separates out a chatas for a sin that he did, v'meis, and the person himself died. Okay. Now, what do you do with this chatas? We've learned this halacha before. This is a chatas hameis. It's got to be left to die because nothing can be done for it. Okay. Even his son who inherited it can't bring it for a korban chatas that he needs himself, right? Because you might think, okay, so the instant he died, it transferred ownership to the son, so maybe he can bring it as a chatas. No, it can't. It was designated for the father's chait. And furthermore, the designation of the chatas is so specific that afilu al chelev she'achal emesh lo yivenu al chelev she'achal hayom. So first of all, he can't. If he designated this for eating chelev, and then he subsequently ate dam, you say, oh, you know what, I'm going to bring this one for the dam. No, you can't do that. It's got to be for the same chait. Afilu al chelev she'achal emesh lo yivenu al chelev she'achal hayom. If he designated it yesterday for chaylev that he ate yesterday, he can't bring it for chaylev that he ate today, even the same chayt. Shenimar korbano al chataso sheyehei korbano l'shem chet'o. It's for a very specific chayt, and that's it. It cannot be transferred. Okay, so a chatas is non-fungible.
It's not. When you say not spongible,
Non-fungible.
I think it's fungible. Okay.
Fungible sounds like spongible, but okay. Now, if you recall, the chatas and the korban olive yored, these things are things that are variable according to a person's economic means. So here we do see a case where it is possible to for korbanos to be exchanged, and you'll see why. So let's say, first of all, we're starting off with 2 equivalent offerings. Somebody sets aside money, okay, and he had designated this money for his chatas, and he said, I'm going to use this to buy a lamb. Okay, now and then he changes his mind and says, you know what, there's a goat that's better quality. That's fine. He's allowed to switch between them, and vice versa as well. And if he designated money for a lamb or for a goat, and his economic means subsequently took a dive, and he needs to downgrade to a bird offering, right? So he can use that money for the birds. Now, if this is a situation where he is, okay, we'll see this. We'll see this in a minute because the Mishna is actually going to dive in. Let me just carry on the sentence. And so here we're talking about obviously the korban olive yored, where you've got the option of bringing flour as well. Okay, so if he set aside money for birds and he became even further impoverished, then he's allowed to use that money instead to buy flour. Ketzad. So let's take a look at this in depth. Hifresh the kisba or sira. So he set aside money for a behemoth, right? For a goat or for a sheep. He became impoverished. Yavi off. Then he's allowed to change that money and buy a bird instead. And so he's going to have change. What's he going to do with the change? He puts the change back in his pocket, because when he set aside the money, he was under the impression that he was wealthy. He became impoverished. The whole reason why he's supposed to be able to bring a lesser offering is because he can't afford it. So that money was set aside we consider it set aside in error, and he gets to put it back in his pocket. Okay. He became further impoverished. Yavi asir seifa, and the same thing happens. He just spends it on the flour, and the change he puts back in his pocket. Okay. Hifresh lasir seifa. If he was, however, the other way around, if he was poor, and he set aside money for just flour, and he became wealthy, he came into money. Yavi off. So let him add to the money and bring a bird. If he became further wealthy, Yavi kisba usira, add more money to the pile and bring a goat or a sheep. Hifresh kisba usira, if he actually separated out an animal, okay, v'nistavu, and now they developed a mum. Imratza, so if he wishes, Yavi bidmehen off, right? He has the option once he's sold it. He's allowed to use that money to bring a bird offering instead. Hifresh off in his time, if he designated a bird, and that bird developed a mum, lo yavi b'dama basir saifa she'ein la'of pidyon, because the whole din of pidyon only applies to behemoths, not to birds. If a bird develops a mum, and a mum is like a chaser, it's missing a limb or something like that in his type. So that doesn't fall under the getter of redemption. And if that one develops a mum, I guess, and it's been designated for a chatas, it was also probably, hang on, is it going to be left to die? Probably. Doesn't say in my commentary if that bird is going to be left to die, but I'm guessing since it's been designated for a chatas and it now cannot be used. But hang on, no. The halacha of it being left to die is only if like the owner died. If he designated a second offering, then I guess it is just set. Is it set free? What happens? I'm not sure what happens to that bird.
My commentary doesn't say anything about whether it's left to die. It doesn't say anything.
Okay.
The beginning of the Mishna with the lamb and the goat and all that, is that getting to the middle of Tamura? Exchanging it?
No, so it's not called exchanging it. It's this is where there's a redemption. If it develops a mum, and you want to and you say, okay, it's got a mum, let me sell this in the marketplace, and
Right.
for food, right? And I'll take that money, and now the kedusha passes on to the money, and the money goes on to the next animal.
Right.
Okay. All right, let's go on to Mishnah Tes. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Kavasim kodmim le'izim b'chol makom. Everywhere in the Torah, when we're talking about sheep and goats, sheep always come before goats. Okay, it's just the way the Torah is written, that sheep come before goats. Maybe this is because sheep are actually preferable. Maybe sheep are higher quality than goats. Talmud lomar im keves yavi korbano lechatas melamed sheshneim shekulin. So hang on, that's not giving us the full picture over here, because that pasuk comes after Vahevi korbanos seiras izim. The goat sacrifice in Vayikra Daled is mentioned before the sheep sacrifice. So that's the only place in the Torah where it's mentioned before, but it's mentioned before in that place in order to teach you that there actually is no difference. If it had been consistently before, you would have said, okay, sheep are better. But since in one place it has goats are better, we're not going to play a game of saying, okay, we're going to have it 15 times before and 15 times after to make sure that they're equal. You know, if it was 16 and 14, then we'd say, okay, the 16 is better. Now, we're not going to play those games. If it's better, it always comes first. So once you see a disruption in the order, we see that there's no difference. Okay, and now we carry on from this principle into other similar cases in the Torah. Okay, Torin kodmin libnei Yona b'chol makom. Everywhere in the Torah we mention birds, right? It's always going to be the turtle doves and the young doves coming afterwards. Yachol mipnei shem yuvchar yoter. Talmud lomar uben Yona or Tor lechatas. So in one place we have Ben Yona and Ben Yona preceding Tor. No preference between the two. Everywhere in the Torah we have it is given Abba Aim, Kabed is Avicha v'Simecha. Yachol shekavod ahaav odef al kavod ha'em. Okay, is it so that your father precedes your mother? Talmud lamar ish imo v'aviv tirau. There's one pasuk once again where his mother comes before his father. Melamed sheshneihim shkulin, where they have the same honor. However, Aval Amru Chachamim, but the Chachamim did qualify this. Ha'av kodem la'em b'chol makom mipnei shehu ve'imo chayvim b'kvod aviv. His father has a high level of honor because his mother herself is mechuyav to be mechabed her husband. V'chein b'Talmud Torah, and similarly we see with Talmud Torah, im zacha haben lipnei harav kodem es ha'av b'chol makom. A person's if a person has a Rebbe Movhak, then his Rebbe's honor precedes his father honor in all places. Because both he and his father are chayav to be mechabed the Rav. Hadran alach Maseches Kerisos, and tomorrow we do Me'ilah.
And we are on to Akka.
Yeah.
No. There is an instance of one who performs one act of eating and is liable for it before Katos and one Ashim. A Tamei person who ate Caleb, which would be left over from consecrated food, and it was on Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, Reb Meir says if it was a Sabbath and he carried it out in his mouth, he is additionally liable. They said to him, this is not in the same category. There is one who performs one act of cohabitation and was liable to 6 Katos. He cohabitates with his daughter, who may be liable for her as his daughter, his sister, his brother's wife, his father's brother's wife, a married woman, and a menstruant. And he who cohabitates with his daughter's daughter may be liable for her as his daughter's daughter, his daughter-in-law, his wife's sister, his brother's wife, his father's brother's wife, a married woman, and a menstruant. He also says that the legal great-grandfather transgressed and married her. He is liable for her as his father's wife, and so is he who cohabitates with his wife's daughter, or with his wife's daughter's daughter. He who cohabitates with his mother-in-law may be liable for her as his mother-in-law, his daughter-in-law, his wife's sister, his brother's wife, his wife's brother's wife, a married woman, and a menstruant. And so is he who cohabitates with his mother-in-law's mother or his father-in-law's mother. When Yochanan ben Nuri says he who cohabitates with his mother-in-law can be liable for her as his mother-in-law, his mother-in-law's mother, and his father-in-law's mother. He said to him, the three of them are of one denomination.
Yeah. Arachin.
We'll finish with Kerisos, but we're going to continue with the Chazara.
The Chazar, of course, yes.
But we finished all together anyway. Okay, all right. Okay, all right. Gimel Bet. Whether he vowed, I'm sorry. There is to the law of the ancestral land an element of leniency as well as an element of stringency. How so? Whether one consecrates a field in the environs of a town, or whether one consecrates a field in the orchards of Sebas. He gives it for the area of the land in which a comma of barley may be sown. 50 silver shekels for an acquired field. He gives its worth. The Elliot says it is the same for the ancestral field and for the acquired field. What then is the difference between the ancestral field and the acquired field? Only that for the ancestral field he gives a fifth, but the acquired field he does not give a fifth. This is the law of Mulad Bull that killed a slave, an element of leniency. as well as an element of stringency. How so? Whether he killed the handsomest slave or the ugliest slave, he gives 30 selim. If he killed a free man, he gives his worth. If it wounded with either this one or that one, he pays the full damage. There are two of the laws of the violator, and they deduce the elements of leniency as well as elements of stringency. How so? Whether he violated or seduced the daughter of the most prominent family of Kohanim or of the humblest family of Israel, he gives 50 selim. But as for the payments for disgrace and disbasement, all depends upon the statement status of one who disgraced and the one who is disgraced.
Okay,
Some kind of going on.
Sorry?
Some program going on tonight, I think, about Tehillim. All the rabbis are getting together, so like the subject.
We're doing Yom Kippur Katan at KSY this after Mincha.
Right. We have Yud Beis Vav. They would carry them on poles, with those who. When those in front have emerged beyond the wall of the courtyard and those in the rear have not yet married, those in the front contaminate their garments with tumah, while those in the rear do not contaminate their garments with tumah until they emerge. When both these and those have emerged, both these and those contaminate their garments with tumah. Rav Shimon says neither these or those contaminate their garments with tumah until the fire catches on to most of them. And once the meat has become charred, the one who burns them does not contaminate his garments with tumah. If one slaughters or offers up an offering outside the temple, he is liable for the slaughter and liable for the offering up. Rav Yosef ben Hagili says if he slaughtered it and within the temple and offered it outside, he's liable. But if he slaughtered it outside and offered it outside, he is not liable. Since it is not offered up anything but a disqualified offering outside the temple, they said to him, even when one slaughters within the temple and offers up outside, as soon as he takes it outside the temple, he has disqualified it. And a person contaminated by tumah who has either holy food, which would tame, or holy food, which would tahor, is liable. Rav Yossi Hagili says if one who is tame ate that which is tahor, he is liable. But if one who is tame on that which is tame, he is not liable, since he has not eaten anything but that which is already tame. He said to them, even a person who is tame who ate according to that which is tahor has redended it tame as soon as he touches it. But a person who is tahor who ate holy food, which is tamei, is not liable, for one is liable only for the personal tumah.
Okay.
And we have although he pays him, he is not forgiven until he seeks forgiveness from him, as it is said in the Gemara now, but now return this wife. From where do we know that the one who forgives should not be cruel? It is said, and Avram prayed to God, and God healed Avimelech. If one says, blind my eye, cut off my hand, break my leg, he's liable. On condition to be exempt, he is liable. Tear my clothes, break my leg, he is liable. On condition to be exempt, he is exempt. To so-and-so, on condition that to be exempt, he is liable, whether it is against his body or against his property. If one steals wood and makes it into utensils, or wool and makes it into garments, he pays as of the time of the robbery. If one steals a pregnant cow, and he calves it, or bearing wool, and he shears it, he pays the value of the cow ready to calve, or the value of the ewe ready to be shorn. If one steals a cow and becomes impregnated, while with him, and it calves, or a ewe, and it becomes laden with wool while it is with him, and he shears it, it pays as of the time of the robbery. This is the general rule. All robbers pay as if the time of the robbery. Okay, now we are into Arabic.
I know there's one more.
Good one. Okay, sorry. If one steals an animal and it ages, or slaves and they age, it pays it as at the time of the robbery. But Meir says in the case of slaves, he may say to him, here is your property before you. If he steals a coin and he cracks fruit and it rots, or wine and it sours, he pays it at the time of the robbery. If he steals a coin and it becomes disqualified truma, it becomes ritually contaminated, chametz, and it is in his possession on Pesach, or an animal that is used for transgression, or becomes disqualified for the altar, it is condemned to be stoned. They may say to him, here is your property before you. Okay, now we're on to Arabic. Yud Aleph. One who finds the tefillin should bring them to the pair by pair, pair by pair. Reb Gamliel says 2 by 2, and to what do these words apply? To old ones, but not for the new ones. He is exempt. If he found them and tied in pairs and in bundles, he must wait until both near them until dark, then bring them. But in a time of danger, he may cover them and leave. Reb Shimon says he hands them to his friend, or his friend to his friend, until he reaches the outermost courtyard, so too his child hands them to his friend, and his friend to his friend, even if they are 100. Rabbi Yehuda says a person may be hand a barrel to his friend and his barrel to his friend, even beyond the throne. They said then this should not go further until the feet of the owners. If one was reading a book of the scripture on the threshold and the book was rolled from his hand, he may roll it to himself. If he was reading on top of the roof and the book rolled from his hand, as long as it reached within 10 tefachim of the ground, he may roll it to himself. Once it has reached 10 tefachim, he should turn it over on this writing. But Yehuda says, even if it's only removed from the ground by the width of a needle, he may roll it to himself. But Shimon says, even on the very ground, he may roll it to himself, and if rabbinically prohibited, for no prohibited matter, prohibiting matter may stand in the way of his holy scriptures. Okay. Now we are up to Midah. The slaughters of Chusas are considered nidos from their cradles. Chusas men render a bottom mattress as tummy and that on top as zav, since they are viewed as men who have contaminated with nidos, since Chusas women observe a nida period on account of any food. However, one is not liable on account of articles that were below for entering the temple with tummy objects, nor does one burn truma because they became into contact with those articles, since the truma is in doubt. The daughters of seducers, when their custom follows in the paths of their fathers, they are like Christian women. If they separated from the custom to follow in the paths of Jews, they are like Jewish. When Rabbi Yossi says the Jewish woman's law is always equivalent to that of Jewish, until they separate from the Jewish custom, follow in the paths of their fathers. And concerning women, uterine blood of a Gentile woman and of tahor blood of a Mitzaris, the Shammai renders both of these bloods tahor. But Beis Hillel says the blood of each of these women is like that of a spittle and like a urine. And the blood of a woman who gave birth and did not immerse in a mikvah, Beis Shammai says she is like her. It is like her saliva and her urine. Beis Hillel says it generates tumor, both moist and dry. But Beis Shammai says concede concerning a woman who gave birth in a state of tziva, then her blood generates tumor, both moist and dry. Okay. It's a show. I will see you tomorrow.
It's Hashem.
Have a good day. Thank
First
you.
of us.